How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the U.S. government placing an effective ban via executive order signed by President Trump on Huawei, which is a Chinese company that produces telecom equipment and also consumer electronics, namely cell phones. Now, before I even get into it, and it is kind of complicated, I just got to say, if you have a Huawei device like I do, then don't fret. You're good to go. You will still have access to all your Google apps, your Gmail, your YouTube, all those apps. The Google Play Store itself will still be intact. However, if you want to get a new Huawei device that has not come out yet, that might be an issue if this ban is still upheld. But for now, I digress. Let's get into this whole ban. What is it about? What's going on? I have two Huawei devices. I have these right here. The P20 Lite, which is the one with the blue backing, and then also the Honor 7A. They're great phones, great devices, very cheap. Unlocked on Amazon, the P20 Lite is like $225 last I checked, and the Honor 7A was like $175 or $150. They do everything I need. They're really fast, pretty phones, great cameras. All the apps I need are here. Everything I need is right there. There's no point in me going to an Apple iPhone and spending $1 trillion. Same thing with the Samsung Galaxy, etc. So I think there's more to this particular ban than what the government says, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's just stick with what the government says right now. The reason for the ban, according to them, is because of security concerns. They're saying that Huawei is a state-run company in China. Therefore, Huawei can place spyware, hardware basically, not necessarily software, but hardware that can spy in on American citizens and relate it back to the Chinese government. That's the allegation. I've not seen proof of that. I think there was one thing where it was some software on a Huawei device that would send data back to a Chinese server, but that has since been removed. It's not on any Huawei device right now, as far as I know. And if I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments below. But that's the fear. Even before this particular ban went into place, the U.S. government did not have Huawei devices at all. Okay, because again, going back to the Chinese allegedly state-run company, they're worried that they could have their phone in the White House, State Department, or whatever, and it's being recorded, tracked, all of that, and being sent right back to Beijing, Shanghai, wherever the Chinese government may be at any particular point in time. Now, that's kind of a valid security concern because I have seen Chinese spies over here in the U.S. get caught and convicted. I've seen that. So I'm not necessarily saying that the government is wrong for having that kind of fear, but as far as banning it totally, I'm not really a fan of. The ban will mean that Huawei cannot get served U.S. chips, Intel, Qualcomm, etc. They can't serve them. Google will not be able to serve them any kind of new devices. It's just going to mean that they're going to have a hard time competing because they won't have access to the most popular and most needed features, software and hardware concerned. Now, Huawei says they got their own chipsets in development to replace Intel, Qualcomm, etc. They also have their own OS to replace Windows and Android if they don't have access to them. Now, Android is open source, so they could just take their own version of Android and make it be for Huawei devices because Android is not necessarily a Google product. The most widely used version of Android that we all have on our phones is Google, but Android itself, the actual framework, is open source. So Huawei could take a version of Android and use it for itself. Now, will the Google Play Store work on it? I'm not really sure, but that is kind of far down the road because like I said, this will only affect phones that have not yet come out. Ones that are on the shelves right now in the store or on Amazon that you can buy today will not be affected. You'll be able to update just fine, like I said earlier. But getting back to the reasoning why the government wants to, or they have banned Huawei, they're talking about security. I think this is more of the trade war. Now, I'm not necessarily against the trade war. I think that Chinese government, well, the Chinese people, manufacturers are dumping too much Chinese crap into the U.S. ecosystem. It's just too much. You go to Walmart, I think they said 70% of the products are from China in Walmart. It's just too much. Like, let's get some American manufacturing. How about that? Let's not have everything be made over in China. And then to go back to the whole security thing for a moment, there's not one cell phone made here in the US. So if everything, including Apple, Samsung, whatever, if they're made over in China, then what's to prevent the Chinese government from installing some kind of hardware on each of those phones in their factories? What kind of oversight is there in Foxconn? You got 1 million employees. Who's to say that the Chinese government just can't slide something in there and spy on you that way? You see what I'm saying? BlackBerry devices are cool, but where are they made? I really don't know, but let's keep going. There is a bigger issue, and that's the money aspect of it. I think that there's some lobbyists out there in Washington, D.C. to represent Apple, Google, that don't want Huawei to be in the mix. It's competition. Cheaper phones, just as good performance. You're talking about a phone that's like $200 competing with a phone that's $1,000. Huawei just overtook Apple as the number 2 cell phone manufacturer in the world, right behind Samsung, which is a company in South Korea that Google's pretty much in bed with. That's going to be a problem if they overtake Samsung as well. They'll be the top dog. And at that point, now you got to get into some real, competitive stuff. So money may be the biggest motivating factor behind this. If Huawei were not a giant like they are, this wouldn't even be a problem. They wouldn't be on the ban list. They wouldn't even really, it wouldn't be an issue at all. Now, to be fair, this particular ban does not just target Huawei. I think there's like 70 companies that this ban encapsulates, because it talks about foreign governments and cybersecurity. But the obvious target here is China, and more specifically Huawei. I think the other companies are just kind of caught up in the crossfire of this particular ban. But again, I digress. Let's talk about security for a moment, because that's kind of funny to me. We talk about the Chinese government engaging in some kind of cybersecurity malfeasance or whatever. Let's not forget how the U.S. government spied on us. NSA. I mean, there's been countless accounts of citizens in the U.S. being spied on by the U.S. government through their cell phones. Okay, that's not even up for debate. And then aside from the government spying on us like they normally do, there's also U.S. companies like Amazon. You have the Alexa. Now, I know Alexa is a device, not a cell phone, but Amazon employees are listening to you while you talk to your Amazon device. Okay, you're thinking it's just a machine and it's just responding in kind. No, you have thousands of people on the other end of their Amazon device listening to whatever you say, recording it, taking notes. Now, they say, Amazon it is, they say, oh, we respect privacy. Nobody knows who you are. But how do you know that they don't know who I am? If they were to hear my voice on the Amazon device, they won't know it's me. I mean, I don't have any kind of device like that in my crib. I don't even have any kind of Apple devices because I don't like how they do. Remember that whole flaw with FaceTime where you were able to call somebody and before they would pick up, you could still see what's going on and hear them? Okay, but we want to talk about Huawei. Google has many allegations of spying. I mean, it's just so many things that the U.S. government does and U.S. companies do to spy on you. To pick on Huawei, in my humble opinion, it doesn't make sense. Now, maybe the U.S. government knows about the spying that they do, but they want to be the ones to do it and kind of corner that market and not have foreign governments do it. Because if they're doing the spying, U.S. government that is, they're able to kind of control it. If you commit a crime with your phone on you, the company that either is your cell phone provider or the manufacturer of the phone may get a subpoena if they can't get into your phone. That was the case probably about 2 years ago with Apple. I'm not sure what came out of that actual case, but they were trying to get into the phone. Now, are you going to be able to serve Huawei with a subpoena talking about let's into the phone? Is that going to happen? Because these devices are protected. Like this one right here, you have a fingerprint scanner on the back, and there's also, a way to get in this way. If you can't crack it here or through the scanner, how are you going to get into the phone? But you're going to call Huawei and be like, hey, let us into the phone. They would be like, nah, we can't do that. So there could be a security problem right there because they don't allow for your phone to be compromised. There's a lot to this particular story, and I pretty much leave that right there for now. I'll place more info about this in the box, but this could be resolved because, like I said, it's probably part of the trade war. The security risk, may be a concern, but the biggest thing is the money from the trade war. If they can resolve that issue, then we might be back on good terms and everything may be A-okay. If not, then I'm not sure what's going to happen. New Huawei devices will simply not have Google products on them. And for some people, that might be a blessing if they're trying to escape the monopoly that some label Google as. So what do you think? Do you think that this ban on Huawei was valid? It was needed? If that's your opinion, please let me know why in the comments below. I think that they shouldn't have been banned. I'm going to keep my Huawei phones for as long as possible. And I understand some of the security concerns, but I think there are more concerns for the citizens of the country of the software that's on your phone. When you go on the internet, the tracking and stuff like that's the biggest concern in my humble opinion, and not the hardware that's on your device. So whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.